guys, it's Larry the GM. Sorry, I haven't been on a video in a while. We will fix that today. We're gonna do a couple videos to kind of catch up on a couple of key articles we have done at the site, and I just wanted to jump on and maybe talk about a couple things related to the winter meetings and especially all the room. Let's start with we'll talk. Okay, let me back up. We will talk more about winter meetings at 5 o'clock, but let's get into the discussion related to the catchers because there's a ton of rumors out there on catchers. Guys, I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to keep up with all the rumors. I'm not the rumor reporter guy in general, so I'm going to do my best, kind of talk a big picture, but let's talk about some because clearly the Astros are interested in upgrading the catcher, which I think at least like we can stop arguing about whether the Astros are going to improve catcher, and now we can get into the discussion of how they're going to improve catcher. Which, for me, after spending like 3 months trying to convince this fan base that they needed to do something at catcher, it's much better to be having a constructive discussion about what they should do. So let's talk about a couple of the rumors that were out there over the last, I guess, 48 hours, and then I guess there's even more rumors out that the Cardinals are at least going down the path with Contreras, and he may be going there. So at least the way I look at it. So number one on the website. So again, pause. Please like this video. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And on the website, we've got several articles talking about winter meetings and what they could be doing, trades. Let's make a deal. I've gotten user subscriber trades in there. So, guys, there's all kinds of. It's the off season. And what have we said about the off season? We got you here at Larry the GM. All right, so let's talk about it. Astros are shopping for catchers. What deal should they make? So it's the rumor season. Yesterday, Mark Feinstein said that the Astros have emerged as a potential suitor for Sean Murphy. Sean Murphy. Now wait a minute. That's the A's catcher. Houston currently has Martin Maldonado as a catcher and is connected to free agent Wilson Contreras. Murphy, a former Gold Glover, is under club control to 2025. That's an important little detail here. Chandler Rome said Dusty Baker said the Astros will meet with Wilson Contreras and have interest. And I guess there's even another set of tweets out there that said the Cardinals are in it in deep for Wilson Contreras and probably are the favorites to get Wilson Contreras. I think there's still the option if the Astros and Dusty especially will have the conversation with Christian Vasquez to say, look, I had my reasons for doing what we did as far as usage for you in 22, but if you come here, you sign, you're going to be the main catcher, and and Martin will be the backup. Now, I want to pause for a minute. Martin Maldonado apparently is not happy about this. Here's my perspective, and I don't want to be ugly. But Martin Maldonado really should be happy that the Astros have stuck with him as the primary catcher for this team for the last couple of years. Now, people may come at me and say, "What are you talking about? He's been great. Maldi's awesome." Like Maldi's defense has not been good for several years, guys. And I know that I may be the only one telling you that, but you can look at the advanced defensive metrics and you can see it yourself. So, in fact, we're going to talk a little bit about defensive war here relative to Contreras and Murphy. So I need Martin Maldonado to appreciate, like, hey, you're going to get paid $4.5 million and be a backup catcher. That's not a bad life. Now, at the end of the day, if the Astros get into spring training and feel like Yanier Diaz or Corey Lee is really ready to go, then they may just say, Martin, let's send you to a spot where you can get what you want, which is a starting catching job, and set yourself up for another contract maybe in 24. So here's how these two let's get focused on Contreras versus Murphy. We all kind of know Christian Vasquez. Well, maybe I would say we don't really know Christian Vasquez because Christian Vasquez was even more awesome than most Astros fans really even know. But if we're talking about Contreras, will be playing in his age 31 season next year. Projects to have an OPS of 763, a WRC plus of 118, a WAR of 3, and a defensive WAR 2.3. Wilson Contreras is a below average to average catcher. He's not as bad as some people will talk about him, but he's not great. Okay, I'll just be honest with you. Murphy will be 28 next year, so theoretically you'd be having Murphy at age 28, 29, and 30 seasons because he's under control for 3 years. 764 OPS, 118, a WAR of 4. And you're like, well, why is his WAR higher? It's because his defense. Uh, as mentioned by the Mark Feinstein tweet, Sean Murphy is a great defensive catcher, one of the best in the league, easily top 3. So, and will be won't be a free agent until 2026. So, he's actually in his first year arbitration, with maybe a little bit to do why the A's are potentially interested in this. Is the A's start looking at the future years? A's don't even like even paying for advanced years in arbitration. So Murphy would expected to get about 3.5, maybe 4 million this year, about 8 next year, and then and 24, and then around 13ish maybe and 25. The current projection for Contreras is somewhere between 18 and 21 million. And I'll just cut that down the middle and say it's 19 and a half for AAV. Obviously, one of these is a trade, Murphy. The other one is a free agent signing, and a fairly expensive one, especially if you're not going to use Contreras at at least 70 or 80 games a catcher. He becomes. I mean, that's like 763 is a good bat, but it's not really. It's a below average bat in the outfield. I mean, maybe it's about average bat in the outfield, but it's a top 3 or 4 bat as a catcher. So Contreras is likely incrementally better offensively, and Murphy is significantly better defender. All right, so what's the cost for Contreras beyond just paying the salary? Is that you would lose the second round draft pick, which after the Astros have been through all they're through, that's not something to the farm system's already depleted enough. That's not something we really want to go do. And then you lose $500,000 in international signing money, which we get five. I think it's 5 or something like that. Losing 10% of the international signing money is not necessarily a good situation either. The cost of a Murphy deal it's a significant trade value. You're trading for one of the best catchers in the game in his prime and his age 28, 29, 30 seasons. That's going to cost you quite a bit, right? And so I proposed, I had within the context of the Reader trade article, one of my buddies, Caleb, said, "Hey, I think we could get Sean Murphy." So I'm going to give Caleb credit. He's the one that said, "Hey, I think we can get Sean Murphy." He said that like a month ago. Now his deal wasn't. In that article, you'll see I fixed Caleb's deal to be fair value. And essentially, I would adjust it to be like a Luis Garcia is one big. If you're going to go, there's 2 different routes here. One is the Luis Garcia, Jake Myers, and like a lower level prospect like JP France. The other thing I saw on Twitter today, and I forget the source, so forgive me for that, was I believe Clint sent me the message that said, "Hey, these A's are more interested." It may have been from Ken Rosenthal. The A's really want like starting level major league players for giving up Sean Murphy. So, hey, we give him Luis Garcia, we give him Jake Myers. That's a pretty good haul of young talent with lots of years of control. Luis Garcia's got 4 years of control, and Jake Myers has got five. Then you give him a prospect that's the 33rd prospect in the system. That's a total package of 52.9. I now there's going to be multiple teams vying for the services of Sean Murphy if he's truly on the market. I don't know how much of a premium you have to pay because that package, that price is already pretty steep. If that's the downside of that is obviously you're giving up Luis Garcia, and I'm not sure I really want to. If they're losing JV for 23, I'm not sure we want to run the risk of. I think most Astros fans think too positively about the starting pitching staff right now. They would do well to get another starting pitcher, and we'll talk about that more at 5 o'clock. The other option that I could see for a Sean Murphy deal would be to base it around the primary asset in the deal being Chas McCormick and Yanier Diaz. Um, guys, that's you're trading the number 3 prospect, and then adding more pain to that is trading Colin Barber, who's a little lower down. But that giving the A's what they want, essentially major league or near major league ready players. That's Chas McCormick and Janier Diaz. Um, and then Colin Barber being a key prospect that probably makes Double A this year. Uh, the number 2 prospect from the Fangraph standpoint. I don't know. I didn't take the time to look at MLB, but he's up there in the MLB list as well. So you've got and then I put JB France in there just to get the total really close to 51.6. Now, that may not be enough. I mean, guys, these packages that I produce are giving you an idea because no one else seems to be really framing what the real package for for a Sean Murphy really would be. They're going to say like, well, you can give him your Urquidy and a prospect. No, that's not going to do this deal. It's gonna take something like this to get this deal done. Now, if the Astros, so let's talk about not only is there the deal for the catcher, but there's the ramifications for it. So if we go down the Contreras route, we are making a pretty significant financial investment in Contreras without having signed. Well, if you'll read in the article, we'll talk about in a little bit. I believe the Astros are about $30 to $35 million away from the CBT, and they want to leave a little bit of cushion because if they have to address another situation during and at the trade deadline, they should really do that. What I'm saying that the Astros should do is sign one of these, and in my mind, there's 3 high risk, high reward outfielders that all. I mean, it was reported today that Scott Boras, who's the agent for Bellinger, said, we're not taking a multi-year deal. I can get a multi-year deal from multiple teams. I'm not doing it. We're signing a 1-year deal. We're bet on ourselves, and Bellinger's going to sign a 1-year deal with somebody as a prove it contract. I think Conforto was probably going to take a similar route. I think Brantley is going to be willing to take a similar route. The problem with Brantley, as I'll talk to him a little bit later, is he's probably not going to be somebody you're going to know until March. Now, maybe you wait. You just wait on Brantley, and that's your high risk, high reward outfielder. But the way I look at it, there's 3 players there. All can be probably gotten. I don't really know because of the nature of this, but anywhere from let's say 6 to 11. I think it's more like 6 to 9 is what I wrote. Maybe Bellinger's a little bit more expensive than that, but um, you know, if you sign a Wilson Contreras, you still have a spot maybe in the outfield. I think you would want to go fix or upgrade. Now, understand that the plan is also have Alvarez playing the left field too, so you don't necessarily have to have. That's why I don't think the solution is a Benintendi or a Nimmo for the Astros outfield. At least under this scenario with Contreras, then I would still be searching for a left-handed relief pitcher. Now, I talked about in other articles, and we'll get to them. that there's I'd love to get Joe Manaply on this team if the Diamondbacks were willing to sell. I'm not, number one, I'm not sure the Diamondbacks are willing to sell, and number two, I'm not sure that I'm willing to pay the trade value price that the Diamondbacks will probably want for Joe Manaply. I think there's a trade that can be done with the Rangers. Now, apparently, the Rangers just signed Andrew Heaney today. So, I mean, one of the challenges I have in doing this video right now is there's deals being announced as we speak. There's probably been a deal done since I started this video, and maybe it's going to make me look foolish, but let's hope not. So, Taylor Hearn was before the Andrew Heaney signing. What I would think the Rangers would consider their third or fourth best left-handed relief pitcher. I don't know how many left-handed pitchers a team needs. Haney would be their second left-handed starter. I think Taylor Hearn's listed on the trade value website having zero trade value. I think if the Astros go to the Rangers and give them some lower level prospects, say, hey, we pick two of these guys from this list. Let's do a deal. Now, I know people are going to tell me the Rangers will never trade with the Astros. If the Rangers believe that a couple of those lower level prospects are going to give them more value than Taylor Hearn is arguably their fourth or fifth best left-handed pitcher, I think you can make that deal done. All right, so if we go to Contreras route, you got Contreras, $19.5 million. You have an outfielder, $9-ish million, and you got Taylor Hearn, that's about $2. So that's and depending on exactly what the deals would be, you're anywhere between 26 and 31, probably to the higher end of that range. Financial commitment, which means you come in right below where I think we're coming in right where I think the Astros are going to have their payroll for 2023, and you've solved or have a solution in place for most of the answers for this team. Now let's talk about Murphy's side of this, because I think this gets a little more complicated, because depending which deal that they take from up here, you might have to do different things. If they take the Garcia side, then I think you got to go get a pitcher. My answer would have been to get Andrew Heaney. In fact, we talked him on space. I'm wondering if the Rangers are monitoring Larry Jim, guys. I think they may be monitoring me, so I have to be careful what I say and in Twitter Spaces and on the YouTube channel. I'm just kidding. But Andrew Heaney would have been I don't. We'll see what the Rangers paid, but between a $8 and $12 million starting pitcher, that might have been able to be used as a relief pitcher for the Astros if all their starters were performing well. And he was kind of gave them that same flexibility. I'm looking for Taylor Hearn. Now, if you put Garcia in that deal, then then Andrew Heaney probably is a starting pitcher for you. If they go the McCormick side of this deal, which I think the Rangers would choose, because the A's would choose. The A's are giving you their stud Sean Murphy catcher. If you give them a Chas McCormick and a Jhonyier Diaz, that's a good core of the deal. Then you give them a future outfielder and you give them JP France. The problem with that is now with this team, for the Astros side of that, you've now created a hole in the outfield. Unless you're completely confident that Jake Myers is going to be the center fielder you thought he was, if I'm on the Murphy side of this deal, I'm signing two of these high risk, high reward outfielders. Now I know I'm doing these on 1 year, maybe 2 year deals maximum. So the fact that Scott Boras is out there saying for Bellinger we want a 1 year deal, I'm like, okay, Scott, let's go. Let's make this deal with the A's. Let's go get Bellinger. Let's have Bellinger and Altuve have a joint session in front of the whole clubhouse. Let's kumbaya. Let's come together. Let's have Bellinger go out to the Houston press and say, I said some regrettable things, but I was mad. We lost the World Series. Please forgive me. I'm here to help us win another World Series in 2023. Let's go. I think that can happen with Bellinger. And then go get Brantley or Conforto to play left field. And then you have Myers as your fourth outfielder. And then you've got the young guys. You've got the Pedro Leones and others that can be deployed as the year goes on if the risk reward doesn't work out. Okay. And so that's what I do on that side. And then again, I get to go to Taylor Hearns, left-handed pitcher. So if it's the McCormick side of this deal, you got to do something. I think you got to actually get two outfielders. I go this route, short-term outfielders, because I think I've got some really. Well, I'll say it this way: if you look at the Astros farm system, the prospects that we have, and if you were to pick one position, okay, two. If you're going to pick two positions you think the Astros have covered in their farm system, they probably would be outfield and between Yonder Diaz and Corey Lee and maybe Luke Berryhill if they don't lose them in the Rule 5 draft. Another issue that we'll talk about maybe after Thursday, after the draft. Um, you've got catcher covered long term. But I think having Sean Murphy there as the primary catcher as you develop Lee into the major league catcher. Under the scenario that you traded Yonder Diaz, you traded McCormick. If you've got Sean Murphy the next 3 years, you don't need both those young catchers, and you've got Berryhill essentially going into AAA. In fact, if you make that deal, you did it before the Rule 5 draft, you may be able to put Berryhill on your 40-man roster and protect him from the draft. If that happens, you heard it here first. All right, so guys, that's the crux of these deals. So what happens from this standpoint? Hey, so what happens under these two plans? So the Contreras plan, you've got Maldi probably starting 80 games at catcher, and under the Murphy plan, you got Murphy starting probably 110 games at catcher. You got Contreras giving you 60 to 70, although no one's saying that yet. That's what's going to really be deployed with. And in fact, if it gets ugly between Maldonado and the Astros, it could be more Contreras behind the plate, and more Contreras behind the plate is good from a value and a bat standpoint. Defensively, I'm not so sure about it. I mean, if your catching core essentially is Contreras, I think the other thing that might happen under that scenario is they may go get a good fielding catcher that can be essentially the closing catcher. So something I've talked about relative to Maldonado a few times. Right, my idea, if you have Contreras starting 80 games at catcher, you have a Yonder Diaz on the team, which is what I would do. Then you have Maldonado essentially coming in to close games out as a closer at catcher in the eighth and ninth inning. Now, I don't personally think that Maldonado's defense all that great, but if his time is reduced where he's a lot better rested, I think you might get a good catching performance out of Maldi. So that's what the relative impact of these two plans at catcher is. Left field, you've got Brantley Conforto, you know, for 80 games. You got Alvarez for 80 games. Under the Murphy plan, I think you would probably ramp up the number of games in left field. Brantley Conforto 100, Alvarez for 40, because you're not going to have the reason for that is you have Contreras. You're going to put Contreras because you're not going to catch him as much. You're going to put him at DH more. So therefore, Alvarez is going to need to go left field more. And the other scenario, you don't have that, so you got Alvarez DHing more. And I put DH on that chart. Maybe I should have to make it more clear what I'm thinking. Center field under the Contreras plan, you've got McCormick starting. It's your starting center fielder, and he was better, significantly better than average outfielder, better than average center fielder last year. Most Astros fans still don't seem to understand that. Myers there is the backup. And then, if you trade McCormick, then you've got Bellinger. I said we go sign Bellinger, and you got Bellinger and then Myers as the backup. So which would I lean to, guys? This is so close, so close. I I just don't like giving up a 50 trade value package. But if that package is McCormick, who I think if we're trading him at a 30 trade value, we're trading McCormick at his peak. I don't know, somebody asked me yesterday on Twitter Space, like, Larry, if you trade McCormick now, aren't you selling him high? And I said, that's probably the best case. That's the best argument for trading McCormick right now. I think it is. I think McCormick's trade value right now is as high as it ever will be, because I don't know that he is. I think McCormick is about a 10%, WRC plus of about 110 better, and he was actually a little better than that last year. I think I would lean to the Contreras plan, but it's really, really close, and it's really, really, really tempting to not worry about catcher for the next 3 years by putting Sean Murphy behind the plate and just like, it's done. I don't have to worry about catcher, and I don't really have to worry about first base anymore with Abreu at first. So the two biggest positions that I wrote about the most. I mean, what would Larry the GM write about if you don't have to write about catching and first base? And probably end up talking about pitching a lot more in 23. So that's what I think. And here, let me be clear. I think the Astros are doing the right thing by focusing, like, every day there's another rumor that they're thinking about another catcher. I mean, we don't cover Vasquez in this article. I just think, and people have asked me, what about Vasquez? I think the Astros ruined that relationship. But if they put, if Jim Crane himself and Dusty Baker have FaceTime with Christian Vasquez, maybe they can convince him, like, look, if you do come back, we're gonna give you the Murphy treatment. Then maybe Vasquez is into that, and that may be the best value proposition of all of them. So I think what I want to say is, I think the Astros are doing the right thing by focusing on catcher first. It's the most significant way that this team can improve offensively is to address catcher right now, because the gap in the outfield is not as big as you think it is. And if you're really able to put Jordan Alvarez in the outfield for 80 games, that gap's even smaller. All right, so there we go. It's 5 o'clock. We're going to get to the next part we want to talk about. But there's my thoughts about shopping for catchers. Guys, please, again, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, come to the website, and enjoy the website. All right, guys, thanks for all you do. Thanks. Bye-bye.